When you get a sense of fear, where it comes from may be unclear. Hey guys, it's Katie, your host of Faith at Work, and today we're going to be talking about fear. I think fear is one of the biggest things that takes you over and takes you out. So when they say that the devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy, one of the main weapons that he's using is fear. He's trying to keep you from your purpose that you have under God. So let's talk about this, starting with Psalm 11:5. The Lord tests the righteous, but his soul hates the wicked and the one who loves violence. I have a natural reaction against violence, and I love that I do. And I understand why some people have gotten so predisposed to it. You're seeing violence so much that it almost becomes like everything else. Where once you taste sugar for the first time, everything that has sugar in it, you need more sugar, more sugar, more sugar for it to taste right. It used to be with some shakes that I used to drink. They were not sugared enough, so I needed to add sugar. It's the same thing with violence. You've seen so many things that are so awful that if you see something awful, it's like it just goes in your eyes and out, and you don't even think about it again. And the next thing you see, you're like, oh my gosh, that was disgusting. But the next time you see that thing, it's like not disgusting anymore because you just keep getting used to it. We are getting used to the wrong things. And so something that happened with me is I wanted to start arming myself. So I live in Florida, thank God. I feel very thankful that I live in a state that protects the Second Amendment, and I am prepared to carry a weapon. And I started to be on runs and walks and things like that, and I would pass people and I would have fear. I started thinking that maybe it was just trepidation, like I would just be aware of something evil in someone, or start feeling like maybe my life was at risk because this person could do this, that, or the other thing. Is that coming from all the movies that I've watched of the woman walking down the street and someone comes from behind? Is it coming from the news that's telling the stories of, especially with a lot of illegal immigrants in right now? We obviously heard so many stories about the gangs that are around, and just there's more people on the streets that shouldn't be there right now. Is that what was making it happen? Or is it that I know that I'm actually capable of doing something about it, so I'm more aware? So here's what I know about the stories that we tell ourselves. They either come from God or they come from the devil. If they come from God, usually they're surrounded by peace. They give you purpose, and you can be basically directed on a plan by God to figure out why you're going through that trial, or why you're being kind of overcome with some kind of spirit of knowledge, of awareness. So I started convincing myself of that. I'd be on a run and I'd see someone, I'd pass them, and I'd be like, man, like, what if that person hurt me? What if that person has a weapon? What if when I pass by them, that person comes after me? And I started to think, why would the devil tell me that? The devil would tell me that to isolate me, right? To make me not go on the run, to make me stop doing what I'm doing, right? It paralyzes you. It stops you in your tracks. So if the devil was coming for me, is he coming for me by putting fear in me and making me so paranoid that now that I can arm myself, that I would maybe hurt somebody? That's just what I started thinking in my head, is what would be the game plan? And then on the other side of the coin is, what would God be doing by making me aware of what could happen, or preparing me, or giving me the right to carry a weapon and actually do something about it if someone came after me? Because that's the great equalizer. If you don't know this, if somebody is walking down the street and they have a gun and you don't, or they're going to attack you and you don't have a gun, your equalizer with someone who's bigger, stronger, or has a weapon is a weapon. So that's why I truly believe that you should be able to carry a weapon if you feel like it, but also why you should get comfortable with the idea of having weapons around for self-defense. So a big thing with guns, you heard all about it with the election year of guns are bad. They're always talking about school violence and things like that. You do not have a gun to kill people. You have a gun to protect yourself against people trying to harm you. So I think that's like the big shift in your mindset of thinking, why do people carry guns? Is it to go around killing people? I know that Val actually told me a story about this trans person who is so in fear now. They think that since Trump was elected, they're in fear of people with guns now coming after them, that they themselves got a gun. They got a gun so that they could protect themselves against somebody coming after them. And you've got to think about that. You're like, okay, so before Trump was elected, all of the people who you're afraid of have guns, you think, right? Because I think a lot of liberal people think that all Republicans are carrying guns and that they're carrying guns to try to hurt them. And so now Trump's in office, and now you think that someone's going to come shoot you. So you've got a gun. So, like, your whole idea on whether you're allowed to carry a gun or whether it's good to carry a gun. So, here's my question to you, liberals. Are you carrying a gun to hurt people who think something different than you? Or are you carrying a gun because you want to be able to protect yourself and your loved ones? Because that's the big question that you need to ask yourself is, don't you see that that's why many Republicans and Democrats, but a lot of Republicans have decided to carry a weapon to protect themselves against harm, against other people being hurt? Because if I know that if we're in a mall or something, or if we're somewhere and my husband has his gun, I want him to have that gun, because if someone brings out a gun and starts to kill innocent people, at least we have a little bit of an equalizer by him being able to stop the act. So that was something that was kind of swirling around, and I went on a run, and I started to really prepare myself before my run. And I'd be like, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid, be aware. Because awareness, I believe, comes from God. It's letting you know that, hey, I'm with you. No one can come against you, but you need to be aware of your surroundings so that you actually can help yourself and others if the situation arises. So I never had a gun. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, and I married a man who I was bringing him to his first birthday, surprise. And we were going into a Royals game in Missouri, in Kansas City. And he's like, oh, I can't go in there. I've got to go back to the car. And I was like, why do you have to go back to the car? And he's like, because I have a gun. I had been dating this man for 3 months. I had never seen a gun in person besides, like, I think, like, the cops on, when you go get your fingerprints done or whatever in the city that you live in when you're a kid. I've never literally seen a gun in person next to me. And he just goes, oh, no, I carry. And he took it out of his pants and put it into the glove box and locked it or whatever. And I was like, oh, my gosh, like, I've never seen a gun before. And I was very uncomfortable with the gun. So I was thinking, man, like, being uncomfortable is because I'm not well versed with the gun. I can't pick that gun up and know how to make sure that it's not loaded, or that it is loaded, or use it against someone and not have it used against me. So what I did is I went and got trained, and I am able to now pick up a gun, load a gun, shoot a gun, know if a gun is loaded, and be able to protect myself and my family in my home. It's also just a comfort level of knowing that I can help others and myself, but that I'm also safe around a gun. Because I noticed that my mom was in our home and she wasn't really safe around the gun. If someone said, hey, will you move that gun or bring that gun upstairs? That's a very uncomfortable thing if you've never touched a gun. So if you've never held a gun, I do recommend that you get with, we'll put some resources below. And obviously in all different cities, you can go get your conceal and carry, but you can also get trained just for an hour at one of the ranges where you can actually physically hold a gun. Even if you don't plan on having one yourself, I think it's really important that if a gun was laying around, that you would know exactly what to do to make sure that it harms only people who are trying to harm you and doesn't harm you or your family. So I started training. My husband actually took my mom to the range and we got her a gun. So I just think it's an awesome thing to be able to know how to protect yourself and to not be afraid of guns. So I think the first step of not being afraid of a gun is to actually learn how to physically hold a gun, know if it's loaded, and shoot that gun. So the reason we got on this is that Jesus taught that the world is a sinful and violent place, but challenged his followers not to live in fear and trepidation. So even though I'm fearful when I'm around, like I pass a group of large men or something when I'm running at night, and I feel like I don't have a gun on me, I feel very vulnerable, I can just start praying. And that's what I've been doing is I've been listening to worship music when I'm on my runs, and I'm like, no, like God is with me. No one can be against me. And I'm going to be aware of the situation. I've got little tactics that I've got my phone ready, call my husband, act like he's just around the corner. There's certain things that you can do to keep yourself safe besides having a weapon. But the big thing is to not run around feeling like someone's going to attack you, right? I think that is something that God's been putting on me, where I was so fearful of it that I would start running a different direction, or I would maybe not go on a run or something like that. So get yourself into a position where you feel confident that you're able to protect yourself. Matthew 10:28, and do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather fear him who can destroy both body and soul in hell. So they're talking about God. The only thing that we should fear is God, and knowing that God has sovereignty over every single thing that we do. So as long as you are following the word and you are trying to be the best that you can be and try to get to your purpose through God, I think that you're going to be safe. I think that fear is the weapon that Satan is using, and that we need to stop fear in its tracks. And the only way to do that is to get into the word and to pray. So if you are not in a Bible study, I'm telling you, we've got the Bible recap. There's so many church groups that I know that you're missing out on, that if you are just feeling lost and alone and the devil has been making you so afraid of something, this is your message right now to say, do not be afraid. Get with a community of people that can really help you, because there are people all over that are on fire for Jesus that want to come into community with you and show you the amazing supernatural life that you can have when you believe in God and you put him first. So fear is not from God, in case that wasn't clear. Stay elevated.